Good day to all of you privacy enthusiasts out there, and welcome to our monthly Keep Data Private community event. We have Marcel.
Hello.
And my name is Daniela. Hello. Our topic for today is a very timely one. We're going to be talking about the chat control proposal of the European Union. Now, chat control is not the official name for it, it's simply the nickname that people give it. And the reason for that is that chat control would literally do that. It would allow the EU government to scan and read all of your data, everything that is being sent from you or one of your devices to either another person, another device, or into the cloud. If you want to save data somewhere else or on a system, the EU wants to see everything, literally everything. Now, why are some people in favor? Easy. They put it under the cover of it's for the children. Yes, there is a problem with pedophilia globally. Yes, there are some people that were born in a way that makes them favor younger children over adults, and it is a very complex situation that I am not qualified to deal with or talk about, so I won't. I simply acknowledge that there are issues around the world. Yes, I agree. However, using it as a shield in order to get access to all of our data. It's not only my data, it's also your data. And if you think, oh, I don't live in the EU, I'm fine, think again, because some of the systems will be held in the EU or may be held in the EU, or the data goes through the EU, and that means tough luck, your data is impacted as well. So, what is your take on things? First of all, Marcel, what do you think about it? Any other aspects that I haven't covered in my little rant?
Yeah, I mean it's the children, but it's also terrorism, criminals, and anyone they want to basically track, and they find it too hard that people can communicate with each other encrypted, so they can't access the communications that are happening. So the argument is that we need to be able to decrypt it, or at least decrypt citizens' data, because the communications between government and military will not be subject to the decryption. It's only citizens whose communications must be decrypted so they can access it when they need it. So basically, they're saying that citizens cannot have minister in Denmark who basically said that EU citizens need to get used to the idea, right, that they cannot use encryption for their communications. Stated, as the intention. It's not even about children or criminals or terrorists. Citizens need to get used to the fact they should not be allowed to have encrypted communications. So that shows you what it's actually all about. And it's basically saying that we don't trust you. We want to be able to see what you're doing. It's like parents who say they want to have full access to what their children are doing so they can control what their children are accessing, what their children are doing, which is basically how it's turning out. That we are all children who cannot be trusted, and we need to be able to. That's the thinking. And I think that's very worrying, because it's basically, privacy, where there's stuff that goes on in your own home. Is that also something that we shouldn't be allowed to keep private? If we have friends or family come over and just have a conversation in our house, should we not be entitled to expect to keep those conversations in private? That's where we're heading. It's basically saying over the internet we're not allowed to have encryptions because we're not entitled to privacy. So should we not be entitled to privacy at all? And my stance obviously is that all data should be encrypted, not just the communications over the internet. But yeah, I'm incredibly worried about the future and where we're heading.
I completely agree. And the way you're putting it is really correctly worded, and correctly is the right word here. Citizens. Now, first of all, citizens does not mean you live in the EU. It simply means you were born here, you hold a passport from here. You could be living anywhere in the world. Secondly, I wonder, and I don't know, but I wonder whether our dear little government leaders will be having encrypted uh, mechanisms of communication that will not be listened to. Because I would like to see one rule for everyone. And if our dear government leaders cannot communicate without being listened to, would they still be in favor of that law? Again, one rule for everyone rather than citizens like the little people and the ruling elites.
I would go further. It's the irony is that it's government that should be open, that citizens should be able to see what government officials are talking about, who they're communicating with, what they're saying to each other, and that should be public. Never mind decrypted. It should actually be accessible by the public, so the public can see what the elected officials that we have representing us are doing, who they're talking to, what they're talking about, and what the conversations are. That information should actually be open access. We have a lot of open access, and we've gone a long way to getting open access to a lot of government information and data. But if we're talking about who should have their communications decrypted and who should have their data communications open, it's government officials, not the other way around.
After all, we pay their wages.
Yeah, they represent us.
It's a serious point. We pay their wages. They are there to represent us. They are there to set up the systems in such a way that they serve everyone, that they serve the citizens. That is my point. We pay them, so we should be owning the data that they produce, including the communication between them and amongst them.
Yeah. I think it's more about the fact that we elected them to represent us, not that they actually get paid to do the job. That's important, yeah. Is that they are there representing us because we voted for them. If they're not doing what they said they would do, right, we need to know so that we don't vote for them next time.
Yes. Anyways, what do you think out there? Do you have an opinion? If yes, do write in to us. Do tell us about it. Alternatively, and more importantly, take action. The final vote on the chat control law and proposal is on the 14th of October. You still can get in touch with your EU representative to try and steer them in the right direction. Currently, most countries, unfortunately, are in favor of the law. There are only 3 countries that have come out to say, no, we do not want it. There are 9 countries that are undecided at this point. So it's really important you get in touch with your representative, and I will put the link down in the comments so you can easily do that with the click of a few buttons. A glimmer of hope and good news, because there always is good news somewhere. France has passed a law that makes encryption legal, meaning you cannot force somebody in France anymore to unencrypt data, is my understanding. I've just seen the headline this afternoon, so it's hot off the press. France, I congratulate you being there for citizens throughout the country. Anyone else? Go and tell your representative that you want encryption to continue. And again, I can hear people say, but I have nothing to hide. Anyone can hear anything. It's like, good on you. Well done. Until you get ill at some point, and then your insurance company has insight into how healthy or how ill you really are. And next time round, your insurance premiums are going to go up. Or until you change job next time, and everyone can see what your discussions around your previous employer really were, or what really led up to you changing career and things like that. All of those small details that you currently think, oh, I have nothing to hide, all of those things can be misinterpreted by somebody else. It may just be a misunderstanding. It may be a small thing, but it will come back and bite you at some point. It's just a question of time. It always has done in the past. It always will do in the future. That's
Yeah, I mean, this entire group and the discussions we have is all about getting people to think that encryption by default is not about publishing everything you say and do, make it all available. It'd be the same as just basically saying let anybody be able to access my email, not to be able to send on my behalf, but be able to read all my emails. Should everyone be able to read all your emails, or do you think some of those emails should be kept private? And if you think anything should be kept private, why not everything? Because you should be able to decide what you want to publish and what you want to make public to the rest of the world. It shouldn't be everything unencrypted by default. It should be encrypted by default. The same way your email, right, is private. You send emails back and forth to your friends. It's only the people that you're communicating with that should have access to those emails. And that is what's about to change, is that the government will now be able to access your emails regardless of who you send it to. Mm-hmm. And it's a question of why should the government? Who's watching the government, as they always say? Who's watching the watchers? So I think it's, the first thing is, of course, understanding that privacy and encryption is part of that privacy is fundamental to who we are and what we do and how we carry on with our lives. And that we choose what we want to make public. We choose, like this conversation now, we want that public. We want people to know, what we think and how we feel, and we want other people to hear that message and be able to make their own decisions and go forward from there. But it's our decision that we want this conversation to be public. And that's what we should be aiming for. Not that all conversations, are effective and encrypted. Because do you trust your government? And what happens when the government changes to one that you no longer trust? And we see that happen all the time, around the world. Just look back at history. How many times has a government changed and to a government that can no longer be trusted?
Yeah, and we see it right now in the United States of America. What's happening there is faster than Nazi Germany in the 1940s, for example. It's only taken them a few months what Hitler used to take a few years for, as an example.
And it's also interesting to see which countries are, saying that they want to support, the decryption of all communications amongst their citizens. Why do those governments not trust their citizens? What is the underlying cultural values, that are existing that they need to be able to monitor their citizens? And we just have to think back to the Soviet era times as to how much data was being collected on citizens in those days, and we have no idea how much data is being collected on us now, all of us. They just had paper-based systems. We now have electronic systems where everything can be recorded, where people can go back in time and see every single conversation that you've ever had in the past. That's what the European governments want from us. Think about that for a bit.
Yes. And worryingly enough, we all know where that leads to. It's just people disappearing. And in some cases, even being eradicated from history by having the pictures removed, even from official photographies and so on. And yes, it does happen. And it's like, oh, it doesn't happen here. Well, really? I'm just thinking about the Alsace region currently in France, but it used to go back and forth between France and Germany a couple of times. There are regions between China and India where the border is being disputed as well. I'm not going to go into Israel and Palestine at this point in time because it's, again, a very complex topic that would take up a lot more time than we have time here for. But there's so many regions in the world where borders have changed, new regimes have come in and simply annexed the neighbors, waged wars against somebody else or their own citizens, and it just doesn't end well. And the time to say something, the time to stand up is before the problem really takes place. So now's the time to speak to your representative, your member of parliament, the member of the European Parliament, and so on. Now's the time to send those emails. Now's the time to make those phone calls.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to hear from anyone else who disagrees, who actually supports the decryption of all citizens, including their own communications, private or otherwise.
Yes. Because if you think, oh, but my emails and everything is fine, we also have some examples further in the past than more recent, where some of the tech companies are listening in on conversations that are happening, obviously only to test a feature, not regularly, but they are listening in. So sometimes your voice conversations in the kitchen are being recorded. Now, if they're recorded on a system that's not your device, then the government has access to it. So even if you think, oh, my emails are fine and above water, then there are still the conversations. And you may just be one of those lucky ones that are getting recorded for that brand new feature that's going to come out soon. What about pictures or when your camera is on and can you really guarantee that nobody else has access to what your camera can look at this point in time? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is open. Everything would be available to the government. And for one moment now, if you haven't heard about it, in Europe, there's been a little bit of a hoo-ha with airports. One of the systems around baggage handling has been hacked, and basically there are major disruptions in the European airspace for that reason. Do you really trust the government with your data? Really? Sorry, I've worked in IT all my life, and I know how hard it is to get it right, and I know how hard it is to get it right on such a large scale. It's it's doable. Yes, it can be done, but you need really smart people in the right positions working together, and it takes years to set up systems like that, to think it through, test it, make sure everything works out. And what this proposal would do is flick a switch. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It will be flicking a switch. Some things like Signal, I'm not sure if they would still be allowed to operate in the EU or not. Other companies would simply drop their encryption and security. What's going to happen then? I have no idea. And the fact that I have no idea makes me worried.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's me. Maybe I'm too worried.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, the government wants to spy on us anyway. And, there's a lot of talk at the moment in the US, for example, with ICE, reopening their contract with Paragon for the spyware software to be installed on select devices. And obviously, it's ICE, so we know who they're going to be targeting. But it's also come to light that, there's a lot of governments who already buy that software, that spying software on phones, including a number of European countries that appear to be customers. When you actually track down the communications that are happening by the Paragon servers and which countries the IP addresses end up in, where the servers are located. And it is those same countries, right, that are saying that they want to decrypt all the communication, because currently it's costing them a lot of money, right, to target particular individuals. Wouldn't it be so much cheaper and easier if everyone's communications were just open and they wouldn't have to spend that money anymore?
Mm-hmm.
So they do want to actually access particular people. They actually are trying to do that. And it'd be a lot easier if they didn't have to worry about who they were actually targeting and who they were actually trying to access. They could just access anyone whenever they wanted. And it's typically people who speak out against their governments. They've actually identified a few people who've been targets, who are victims of that software that's been installed on their devices. So there's some interesting research going on there. So you can understand, why governments would support it, because it would make their lives easier at the cost of all of our privacy. Whether they're spying on these individuals is legitimate or not is a separate question. Whether it should be allowed or not is a separate question. But just making it easier for them, so by basically compromising all of our security is where they want to go.
Yes. I, for one, I'm not in favor. As I said, take action.
Yes.
Step one, learn about it, read about it. If you're not in the EU, look up what's going on in your country, in your locality. If you're in the EU, read up what's going on in your country and your locality. Then take action, as in speak with your representatives. Standard template email, which I'll put below, is one option, or give them a ring. Just literally call them up is another option. Send them an old-fashioned letter, also an option. But do
Yeah.
something, because if we don't speak up now, it may at some point be too late, and God knows where that leads to.
Exactly.
That's my rant for today.
No, and it's a call to action as well. I think everybody who's watching this needs to act now if they haven't done so already.
Yes.
And contact their representative, contact their member of the European Parliament, and make sure that they're aware of what's going on and whether to vote for it or not.
Yes. And yeah. In any case, history will tell us which side we're on. Personally, I'd rather be on the right side, not as in on the correct side, on the ethical side, on the side that helps one another out and makes sure that life is, or the world is, a nice place for everyone, rather than just for a few people who control everyone else. So that's where I would like to land on.
Help avoid us having a conversation in a few months' time about how do we protect our data now that the chat control policy is in place. You don't want to have that conversation.
Yes, yeah, true. With that, I think, unless you have something else, Marcel.
No, I think that's it. I think we need to just make sure that people know what to do and get the message out there and share it with their friends and things like that as well. That would be important.
Yes. Yes, do share it. Share it with your friends, with your family. Share it with people you don't like as well, because who knows, they may have the same issues as you have.
Yeah, share the same values,
Yes,
at least on an encryption point of view.
yes, true. Good. With that, thanks a lot for listening and for joining us. Do join in person if you like. You can keep your camera off, and you don't have to share your real name if you don't want to. It's your data, basically, your privacy that's important. Otherwise, write in if you have questions or comments or would like something read out. And also, if you have other initiatives you would like to share with other people out there, do let us know. It's always good to have a network of people who are like minded, and yes, together we can move the needle. Right?
Exactly.
So, until next time, the fourth Tuesday of the month in October, I'll see you then. And until then, keep well and stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye.